The subtlety of a failed act. Sigmund Freud. The subtlety of a failed act. I was preparing a birthday gift for a friend of mine, a small engraved gem to be set in a ring. It was attached to the center of a cardboard on which I wrote the following words: "Goes to the jeweler L, for a gold ring to be made, for the attached stone, which has a ship with sails and oars engraved on it." Where in this legend the ellipsis appears, that is, between the words make and for, there was a word that I was forced to cross out because it was totally foreign to the context. It was the little word bis until in German. What could have induced me to write it? Rereading this short inscription, I notice that it contains the word for twice in quick succession, fits for the jeweler, for the attached stone. That was not right and had to be corrected. Then it occurred to me that by inserting the encore instead of the for I was trying to avoid that stylistic awkwardness. This was undoubtedly the case, but in that attempt he applied means that were particularly inadequate to that end. The preposition bis was completely unrelated to this context and could not replace the inevitable for. Why then did I choose precisely that encore? Possibly, however, the little word bis was not in any way the well-known limitative preposition of time, but something totally different. It is also, in effect, the Latin word bis, for the second time, which with this same meaning is still preserved in French. Ne bis in idem, do not carry out the same procedure twice, is a maxim of Roman law, and bis, bis. The French exclaim when they want a performance to be repeated. Here, then, is the explanation for my absurd mistake. Before the second for I received the warning not to repeat the same word, that is, to put something else in its place. The casual phonetic identity between the foreign word bis and the German preposition, which includes criticism of the original phraseology, then allowed me to insert the encore instead of the for, as if it were a typing error, but this mistake did not achieve its purpose when it was made, but only once it was corrected. I had to cross out the encore again, and by doing so I sort of eliminated for myself the repetition that bothered me. Here, without a doubt, is a variant of the mechanism of a failed act that is not without interest. I was very satisfied with this solution, but in self-analyses the danger of stopping at something incomplete is particularly great. Conformity to a partial explanation is very tempting, since resistance can easily retain behind it something that is perhaps much more important. Thus, when I narrated this little analysis to my daughter, she immediately found its continuation: "But you already gave that person a similar gem for a ring before. That is probably the repetition that you want to avoid. Nobody likes to always give the same gift." This argument convinced me, and I noticed that it is obviously an objection against the repetition of the same gift and not of the same word. The latter was nothing more than a displacement to something insignificant, in order to get away from something more important. An aesthetic difficulty perhaps instead of an instinctual conflict. Indeed, it is easy to discover the following continuation. I look for a reason not to give away that stone, and the reason appears to me in the reflection that I have already given the same thing once, or something very similar. Why should this objection be hidden and disguised? It doesn't take long for me to see why. I don't even want to give away the stone, I like it too much myself. The explanation of this failed act has not offered great difficulties. A comforting reflection soon occurs to me: reserves of this kind only increase the value of a gift. What gift would it be that he did not give us or tried to give a little shame? All in all, this allowed me to understand once more how complicated the most insignificant and apparently simple psychic processes can be. I was wrong to write something down. I put an encore where there was only room for a for. I warned and corrected it, a little mistake, really just the attempt at a mistake, and yet how many preconditions, how many dynamic determinants. It is also true that none of this would have happened if the material had not been particularly favorable for its occurrence. End. The subtlety of a failed act. Sigmund Freud.